Alright, you can win a copy of this one. Let us know down in the comments what your favourite game is from this genre. You'll know very quickly what genre that is. We're going to look at the game Hotel Hustle, which has just come out, and the publisher have very kindly sponsored this episode. So what's it all about? Well, let's find out. As far as narrative goes, well, there really isn't much of one. You're essentially playing as a couple of raccoons who are helping to run a hotel.
It increases the challenges of running said hotel as you go along. So you basically need to keep your customers happy. You need to make sure that rooms are maintained. You need to make sure that they're nice and clean before you can check people in. And obviously when they leave, you need to do the same again so you can check more people in. And everything is tied together with like a starred system. So you can get obviously 3 stars being the maximum per stage.
Absolutely, yeah. Before any of that, you can choose single or co-op play. We played obviously a little in co-op. I played some in single player as well. I will say that it is much easier with a friend. So it's one of those where it's designed that you work cooperatively. And on that note, it has one of the best split screens I've ever seen. So it essentially splits in the direction you leave the screen, which you so often don't see. Like it'll either pan out really far or it will just lock you in, you know, but here it will split in that direction. You'll be able to see it. I was watching the footage back like, that's such a good idea. Why doesn't everyone do that?
Yeah, I've seen it in a few other games and you're right, it's so seamless because as you move back together, the screen kind of just remerges, doesn't it? And it's very clean in the way that it does it. And as you mentioned with the co-op, it's one of those games where being able to discuss your strategy, your plan of action basically does make it so much easier to play with a friend. And it's actually obviously because it ties in with kind of like resource management, something like Diner Dash, but more so I would say with things like Overcooked.
Yeah.
In terms of having, you know, a set amount of something you need to do in a time limit. It does feel more laid back than something like Overcooked, but no less strategic. It's still got that strategy about it.
Yeah, so basically, if you've played, I reviewed a game called Bear and Breakfast. It feels like the overcooked version of Bear and Breakfast.
Yeah.
You're trying to run your little hotel area, whatever it is. Basically, people turn up at your front desk. You need to get them booked in, but at the bottom of the screen, you can see the state of the current rooms. So there'll be different things that you can access from your cleaning trolley, like being able to hoover the floor or, I don't know, water the plants. And I will say the watering jug looks like a kettle, doesn't it?
It looks like a kettle, yeah. I thought we were leaving tea and condiments behind, but no.
And there is some help. If you're someone that struggles with these types of games, you can actually press the R bumper and it will show you exactly where the things are in the rooms. But as you get a bit more skilled, you find that you don't need that so often. I mean, the state these people leave their carpets in, though.
Yeah, what have they been doing?
Honestly, it's like
disgusting.
1,000 rabbit droppings. It's like, chill out, mate. Just take it easy. Use the toilet, please.
Yeah, and see a doctor.
Yeah. And you just, as you can see from the footage, you're just fulfilling those things. Now, I will say, I did want you to be able to move the cart. You can't move that cart. It's in a fixed location, which is fine for multiplayer. But for single player, it would have sped things up drastically if you could wheel the cart into the room, do all the jobs, and like you would, you know?
Yeah, yes, yeah. I mean, in terms of realism, obviously you would. But I do think it does increase the strategy of knowing that everything is in a fixed location and then kind of making beelines or thinking of the fastest routes of getting everywhere. Yeah. With that in mind, so for example, you need to strip the bed and then put the sheets down the chute and then obviously remake the bed, as you say, water the plants, hoover the floor, etc. And it's about planning out where the chute is so you can strip it, dump it, close any wardrobe doors that need closing in that same action, because if you do that first, you won't have your hands full. And if you start to think in that way, despite the fact you can't move the cart, you can still do it. Having said that, having a second person along for the ride, it does make that so much easier, because you can assign each other jobs. That means you get everything done so much quicker.
Absolutely, yeah. So you're sprinting around as well. You have a dash button to get you around. You have to hold the button down to perform some of these tasks. And that, when there's a timer ticking down, you'll often find that you kind of release it and run off. You're like, oh no, I forgot to, I didn't finish it. And that's good, that's built into the game's design. And all the while you've got these kind of grumpy customers waiting for you, and you can only you can only really do anything for them once the rooms are prepped and ready. Now sometimes at night time they'll also ask you for things, room service. They'll ask for a bottle of water.
You're the British guy, right? Oh my god. What you got? Chips and a hamburger with a bottle of water.
Some water,
God,
yeah.
the audience are going to love that. The Americans are going to love that. They'll ask you for a bottle of water and you go, you know, give it to them. It's just, you have to stick it under their door, man. You're not sliding a bottle of water under a door, are you?
The doors must have been like...
Yeah, well up.
They've got some gaps at the bottom of those doors, haven't they?
So yeah, you slide those waters underneath. Yeah. What's happened? Don't know what's happened to my voice, Glenn. And I like that element of doing that, because early in the game, when you haven't got the orders coming in at night time, it tries to make it easier.
Yes.
You know, it's just... There's nothing going on. You're just kind of waiting, aren't you?
Yeah, the lights go out and obviously everyone's asleep and you just wait for them to wake up and check out. But it is with the caveat, if that's the right word, of obviously that's going to change as you get further into the
Absolutely.
game. So although in those early levels you're like, okay, this is weird, what am I waiting, you know?
Yeah.
It's because obviously it's just drip feeding.
Yeah, Glenn says everyone's asleep. Like, this is where whoever's making this video needs to zoom in onto the person just stood in the darkness.
Yes.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Yeah, they do.
They're not asleep, they just
terrifyingly
stood
so.
in
Yeah,
the
they
darkness.
just stand there waiting.
Yeah, developer, put them in the beds. Come on. Close their eyes.
It's terrifying.
So yeah, in terms of that, if you like those styles of games where you're kind of rushing, it's a less stressful version of those experiences. Having said that, it does ramp up, it does get more complicated.
In terms of the controls, for the most part, they're very straightforward. One thing I will mention is that if you are playing in co-op, you do need to use a Joy-Con each.
Yeah,
which was an interesting choice. You can't choose your controller, and it's one of those where when it first happens, you're kind of like, oh, I've got a Pro controller right here. But actually, the controls are so simple.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter. You know, it's fine. You know, as soon as you start playing, you forget you're holding this minuscule little thing in your hand, and you'll get on with it. An interesting choice, but yeah, it's fine.
Visuals and performance then, as well as audio. Well, it runs well enough. I will say the biggest gripe I have is with the load times.
Yes, yeah. For that first loading of a new level, it's too long. It takes a while. If you fail or want to retry, it's a lot quicker.
Much
thankfully.
quicker.
So that's good. But yeah, that initial one is. It would be nice for them to patch that up and make that a bit quicker.
I really do like this hybrid art style where you have these flat, almost Paper Mario style characters against 3D backgrounds. I just think it works well.
It does. It looks very cartoony in the right way. You know, you get the sense of that. The manic nature of what you're doing. It comes across very well in the way that the characters are portrayed, and it does. It looks nice and clean, nice and colourful. It does everything it needs to do in quite a whimsical way, you know?
Absolutely. Performance-wise, I didn't see any huge drops. So yeah, it runs well, I guess is the takeaway of that. And the soundtrack as well. It's got a nice little backing track that even though the loop isn't the longest, I didn't find it, like, grated.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Because we had a game recently, didn't we, that did have a short loop, and it did grate after a while. A short loop doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing if the music is catchy enough that it just kind of almost unconsciously seeps into what you're doing, and you forget it's there, but it supports what you're doing at the same time. And I would say this is one of those examples.
I'd say so. The only thing I will say is as the game progresses, as you get further, I would like to see some change, you know, environmental and audio. So we'll see how that pans out. As far as price goes, in the UK it's £9.89. or your regional equivalent as standard, but there is a massive discount, taking it down to just £2.69 or £2.99 if you're in the US or the EU. The EU and US sale goes on until the 30th of May, and the American side, your sale goes on until the 30th of May, and the EU, it goes on until the 9th of June. For what? £2? £2.99. This is well worth that price.
That's crazy. I mean, even at just under a tenner, just under £10, I'm thinking that's actually very reasonable for £2 odd. Yeah, no, that's crazy cheap.
That really is. I'm actually quite surprised by that. We only look at the prices as we get to this section, you know, so it's kind of, for a couple of quid, I mean, that is an absolute bargain. Yeah, I'd go for that. So that's it. Hopefully that tells you everything you need to know about Hotel Hustle. It was kind of one of those where we looked at the game and went, actually, that looks all right. Let's reach out, you know, see if they want to do something together.
Yeah, for sure.
And they did. So thanks to the publisher for sponsoring this episode. It keeps us going and hopefully gives you some nice new games to have a look at.
Absolutely. Don't forget, if you want to win a code for this game, just let us know your favourite type of game in this genre in the comment section below. A quick thank you to our patrons and our channel members for your continued support, and to each and every one of you for watching our videos. Take care, and until next time, happy gaming.